Good. We are on. You've done this before, have you?
I have done this before.
This is our first.
Played.
There was one I totally forgot about, actually.
Really?
We talked about biodynamics. It's terrible. I'm like, what is biodynamics? Yeah, cool. G'day, Pete Fraser. Welcome back to DDHQ, mate.
Great to be here.
Always good to see you. Now, I need to check on your welfare. It's been a few months since you guys have won an award. You okay?
No, I'm like getting withdrawals. It's good. Makes us keep trying harder.
Keep trying harder. Although the new cellar door got some tourism gone, I think, didn't it?
Yes. It's amazing. And it kind of links into the kind of seeing the estate, looking at how we make the wines. And, it's cellar doors are all about telling a story.
For a bloke who just wanted to be a farmer, you're talking about being proud of the building next to the vineyard.
These grey hairs are very, they've been earned.
So you're in, the reason we're catching up is that you're in town with the Icon release, which is always a really exciting release for us, one of our favourite wine events on the calendar each year. So High Sands, Ironheart, Kingswood, Overtelly, etc. I want to pour a glass of the High Sands Grenache because I think this is the wine, I guess, would you call it the flagship of Yangarra now? And I guess that best epitomises this incredible piece of land that you guys
We're so lucky.
get to manage.
There's 70 hectares of Grenache in McLaren Vale that's 70 years and older, and we own nearly 20 hectares of that. And to be able to be the steward of that and look after it, to have, I think, be part of a serious group of people in McLaren Vale that are all kind of somewhat like-minded, but all doing something different, and producing Grenaches that are, I would say, really thinking people's wines. They've got beautiful, bright fruit, but they've got structure, and I think winemakers are getting more and more confident diving into structure in Grenache, and I'd like to think High Sands has been very much part of that kind of evolution. And it'd be probably wrong of me to say that we've done it. I think there's a lot of great people with great kind of winemaking prowess, some great vineyards. Yeah. And the beauty of it is that there's really starting to get a knowledge, as if like vineyards, say in Burgundy, or vineyards you see in the Yarra of great Pinot vineyards that multiple people make from different sites. So High Sands, and the sands of Blewett Spring, especially those very sandy ones, they're unmistakable when, people have seen photos of that block. I think it's one of those really evocative kind of vineyard sites that makes you go takes you kind of, you go wow when you it's
this amazing little pocket of McLaren Vale, isn't it? That you go up the hill, you kind of on the way up to the Adelaide Hills, you can look back and have these beautiful views of the ocean, and the south coast there, and it's covered in sand. It's like the further you get away from the beach, there's the sand that's been pushed up over millions of years, and it's just sitting there, and there's these bush vines growing in it. I mean, the foresight to plant there originally back in the 1940s. Right.
The part of that is not much else grows in it. Right. Grenache, like it's just fell out of the sky to be naturally there. It has incredible natural acidity, kind of resilience. So even in the warmest years, often can have the highest acidity because it does ripen quickly. And I think that acidity and the tannins that it produces because of this lower yields in the sand brings this incredible fragrance and beauty, but also this lovely line and
this lightness and deftness, don't they? The wines, like if you go down to the McLaren Vale flat sort of area closer to the water, there's more clay down there, is it? Or?
Yeah, and as you go to those different soil types, and look, there's different expressions in different soil types, and I think over time probably there'll be some producers that produce some different nuances of Grenache in some of those different soil types. The ones that have captured the most attention have been these old vineyards in Clarendon, which is more mudstone, siltstone. Blewett Springs, some in sand in Blewett Springs, and some are in kind of an ironstone buckshot style soil, but it's still kind of a bit sandy. And then, out and about, I'm less familiar with because I really kind of focused in that Blewett Springs and Clarendon, which are a postcode or a village, really. So it's and like wines that are produced in vineyards around that area.
So you're a humble fella, at least that's what you tell everyone. From humble beginnings, I guess, when you took over, it's nearly 25 years.
Yes, it's 1998 when I first started making Grenache from this vineyard.
Incredible. So talk to us about, I guess, what has changed in that time? Like, how are we, this is a wine that is very much putting Australian Grenache on the world stage, I think. And what are you doing in the vineyard, and how have you evolved your farming to keep elevating this wine higher and higher?
I think our understanding of the vineyard in terms of managing the undervine, back in the old days, it would have been manually tilled, or when I say manually, with a silly plough, kind of tilling the soil. Then it went through a stage probably of herbicides, and our deal is really getting that soil back into a natural state. So we're kind of mowing, and that is helping us to probably add a coolness to the vineyard in terms of if it's bare sand, it's very reflective and probably adds a heat into the canopy. And I think there's some great photos of the vineyard where it's just grass all throughout. Obviously, in quite dry years, it'll end up still a bit sandy. And then just doing meticulous kind of shoot thinning and making sure kind of the bunches can really shine. And, it's naturally, I think, what makes these old vineyards, they're naturally relatively low yielding. So, and not to say that the lowest yielding years often even make the best wine. But we see in a year like 21, that's just 21's been the gift that keeps giving. They've probably been the wines that are the showiest and most beautiful and most kind of perfectly balanced.
Yeah.
And thus they've kind of got a lot of attention.
Well, that old Vine Grenache that won the Wine of the Year award, I mean, it's the same vineyard, obviously. Yeah. It's right next. This is just a little block within that side. And then obviously the Overtelly as well, which is probably my favourite Australian wine. I love that. And I've got the 21 and 17 tucked aside as birth year wines. I might just steal this Magnum here at 17 as well when the boys aren't looking. But that prettiness from the 21s and perfume and playfulness.
And so juicy and the tannins hiding in there, just all neat and tucked in, but just giving that wine just incredible length. So we're just wrapped, and but then we're going into with a few of the other ones, the 22s that are probably the most structured wines we've made in a very long time, and we're probably maybe 30 or 40% lower yields in 22, giving you like really incredible concentration and drive in acid and structure.
You're obviously, so Yangarra being certified organic and biodynamic. It's a term thrown around, but on the ground for you and Michael managing the vineyard, what does that actually look like? What are you doing?
The big thing for us, there's two pillars that are absolutely important. One is no synthetic fertilisers. So that means the vine is kind of in touch with the biology of the soil. It's taking the nutrient it needs, and basically using compost, which has basically already been fermented. So it's a very low nutrient level of keeping everything happy and keeping all the, often it's like the microbes in the ground that are doing all the work in a kind of fully natural system. And the other part of that is the, no herbicide. And so that you've got this also, it's all about soil and regenerative farming of that conservation of the soil, and that the plant is able to use all its natural mechanisms. And we feel like that gives it its best opportunity to show a sense of place. And we're kind of pretty committed to that. We do a few of the other bits and pieces like the 500 and 501s, and where we can, if it works out, we'll pick on fruit days. Secondly, flower days, but those types of things are all important, but it's all part of kind of a regenerative farming concept. The estate itself also is, it's relatively large. It's 95 hectares, but there's over 100 hectares of non-vineyard as well. So that biodiversity within the property means that we don't ever see one significant pest, or, everything kind of seems to be in a nice balance.
Before I move on to the Shiraz in a second, just to linger on Grenache for a moment, because this is, I think, it's a variety we talk a lot about. We're really passionate about Grenache, and I think there's no doubt that it's a variety on the rise in Australia. But you're not just winemaker, you're also general manager of Yangarra. Yeah. Talk to us about some of the challenges and opportunities, I guess, of taking McLaren Vale Grenache and Barossa Grenache, for that matter, on the world stage. Like, what is the international perception of these wines? Do people get it?
It's very cool. I just had one of those wonderful moments. I was in San Francisco. I was at a very fancy restaurant with a telephone book wine list, and there was 2 Australian wines on the list. One was Clear Valley Riesling, and the other was High Sands Grenache. And I was just so pumped, and that is generally something that I saw over and over in what I would call the shishi restaurants of the world, that there seems to be a disappearance of what I would call the old school Australian wines, the big Shirazes that are blended from multiple vineyards, and there's this kind of, wow, look what Australia can do. And I feel like Grenache also just came back from an international Rhone event, Hospice de Rhone, and that Grenache we're kind of taking to the world as possibly some of the best Grenaches in the world. Yeah. And that's what makes this so exciting, that we are really excelling, whereas, in some other varieties, it's, how do you compete with white Burgundy or red Burgundy or Barolo whites? And this is, and I was talking to a producer in Aragon, and he's like, we are the home of Grenache in Spain, but we've got it on rootstock. So it's expressing not quite the origins of its heritage. You've got it on own roots, and it's, 80 years old. It's, so, and in the Barossa, there's, 150-year-old Grenaches on own roots that probably has greater history and kind of, so it's very special. And I think the other part is it's scarce, and it's got a bunch of really great winemakers doing some really thoughtful things, and it's and it can't be just emulated by corporations.
No,
you can't just go and turn Grenache on.
No.
So which I think protects it from boom and bust type cycles.
Speaking of big blousy Shiraz, do you want a splash of the Kingswood?
I would love a splash of the Kingswood.
Big blousy. Couldn't be farther from the truth. So the reason we wanted to look at this, because I think we talked about the site. The other thing that's remarkable when you visit Yangarra is the toys you have to play with in the winery and what you're able to do it. And I guess, again, the evolution of these wines. I remember the early Shirazes from Yangarra were a very different beast to what this is, which is just this beautiful, perfumed, elegant sort of wine. Talk to us a little bit. This is the 2022 Kingswood Shiraz. Talk to us a little bit about just how this is made and how this represents this new era of McLaren Vale
I think
Shiraz.
When I travel, and I think the criticism of Australian Shiraz is often it's sunshine in a glass. There's this simplicity of fruit, and there's so many things in the winery that you can do to kind of bring savoury and complexity, and a whole bunch in Shiraz is the first example where you can bring spice and charcuterie kind of flavours. Obviously the tannin that comes from that the stalks, etc., also plays into it. Wild yeast ferments are also bringing more of those savoury elements, maturing the wine on lees, also bringing those lovely umami textural elements. But then when the wine is held in a larger vat, there's less exposure to oxygen. A lot of Australian Shiraz of traditional form was rack and returned and brought in lots of air. So it brought out all the fruit. We kind of nearly want to tuck it back down. And the other part I didn't mention, which is probably the first thing, is when you pick it. So a lot more fruit exposure so that we can pick at lower sugar levels and kind of aiming for more of that red.
I remember you explained it to me in the vineyard when I visited, how you can not have the same canopy colour, get more sunlight in, pick it earlier so you get the sugar and the acidity, and because of your ability to sort the overripe grapes out.
And you kind of then, seeing this lovely blueberry kind of nearly raspberry. They're like much brighter, redder blue fruit versus, you'd often associated McLaren Vale Shiraz to probably more of that blackberry, kind of lightly even more into the stewed prune, plum characters. And so there's this real vibrancy, and it also kind of brings out some of those leafier, sage and rosemary kind of spice that comes through. And so
it's almost a bit weird. It's almost like Cabernet Franc kind of, not so much in structure, but flavour profile, that darker fruit and that herbaceousness. It's so elegant. It doesn't have, this can go a bit more in that charcuterie direction some years. I don't see that as much.
It's kind of lurking in there, I'd like to think. It's always that fine line of brightness and savoury that you kind of walking the tightrope. But it's a fun wine, and it's a kind of Shiraz that I like to drink. You could nearly, if you're tasting this blind, you might think it's from a cooler region.
100%.
Than from where we are from.
Like that.
So it definitely has lots of spice, and ultimately, I think we're in a place where we need to keep challenging the way our Shiraz expresses itself.
All right, let me grab you a fresh glass because we're doing this backwards. We're finishing with the white wine. We like to mix things up. Keep you on your toes, Pete. So I went and looked. There's this. Please don't go and find this online, but there's a video from 10 years ago, like almost to the day, of us chatting in the garage. We started different drop in, and at the time you said, "Oh, we've just brought in all of these other Rhone Valley varieties." So this was only filmed in 2014.
Yeah.
And I had no idea.
It's about the time we were going to plant them all.
Yeah. And so Picpoul, Claret, Bourboulon, all these other varieties.
So there's 13 Chardonnay de Pape varieties, and
I'd hope you know them by now.
I tell you, we've got 11 of the 13.
Yeah.
We don't have Picardin, and we don't have Terret Noir, and we probably never will. They're kind of so obscure that they don't really, they're surplus to requirement.
Just throwing some Cabernet.
Exactly. But over that period, it amazed me, given that Grenache has become such a hero of McLaren Vale, that we didn't have its mutations, which are Grenache Blanc and Grenache Gris. And, we've had Roussanne since first vintage was 2007. And going to a lot of these Rhone events and the travel and seeing kind of the wines of, the Rhone from whether it be South Africa, California, Washington State, and it's kind of homeland of the Rhone or Spain. It just makes so much sense to the Mediterranean climate of McLaren Vale, and given kind of the success of Grenache. So it's 2018 we produced our first predominantly Grenache Blanc blend, but we're able to use Bourboulon, Claret. We've since done a Picpoul, a straight Picpoul, and that's something that we think really suits Australian lifestyle.
Yeah.
That's one of those kind of really lovely, affordable, fresh drinking whites that's just fresh and delicious. The other thing that I think is really exciting about this Overtelly Blanc that we're having is that this is a wine that's not made in oak, so it's all about the fruit and the place. It's made in ceramic egg, so it has this real purity to it. But
Can you just very quickly, why is that? What does the ceramic?
Ceramic's
That's
just
the oak
because it's fired at such a hot temperature in the kiln, it reduces the porosity of it. So a terracotta is effectively the same vessel, but not fired to those hotter temperatures. So it has much more porosity,
Right.
and so the air probably helps to advance. And some grape varieties that have got a lot of tannin or that are kind of you want oxidative characters, you kind of might want to use this. These wines need protecting, but they still need enough air to kind of tame them and bring the best out in them. And outside of all that, they just work, and they bring this lovely. They put the wine on this stage. They put the wine on the dance floor. You know.
I've never been able to the dance floor. Yes,
There you go.
Yep, love the dance floor. I've never been able to quite capture what it is about wines in ceramic and in concrete, that there's a different kind of feel and texture to the wines. There's no hard edges that you might see in oak or smaller format, newer oak, where there's the fruit, there's the oak, there's this. It just has this beautiful, gentle.
And it's interesting, like to some things, concrete's less porous as well, so it's it locks a wine down even more so. But then it also tends to be a little bit more absorbent. So there's more sometimes more interaction. You get kind of nearly a slaty kind of character that's somewhat coming from the concrete, whereas the ceramic just gives you this real pure, fine drive to it.
That's beautiful because you get natural texture there from Roussanne.
Well, these are very textural. The fun thing I like about that, especially I think as Australians, we've become much more savoury in our taste. We're cooking more. We're experimenting with a lot more flavours in the kitchen. These Rhone whites are all about savoury and texture. So they're kind of obscure to us, but they're such delicious wines. This would be if we want to sell these wines into restaurants. If we befriend the chefs are like, we need these wines, and the chefs will be like to their front of house people, you need to pour these wines.
Yeah.
And they end up on lots of tasting menus for that exact reason, because the chefs fall in love with them.
Yeah. And there's layers to that in detail. It's not,
totally.
I mean, the Grenache, the Shiraz, they sing of the variety as much as the place as well, whereas it's no one variety. I mean, in all the clarets we taste.
Yeah,
this
exactly.
Obviously
and the beauty of it is that, especially the claret and the Bois Blanc, the French call them their acidic varieties. Now, they're a little bit more neutral, but they bring this lovely line to the wines. And if we think about climate getting warmer, and these are varieties that are very late ripening and give us this ability to grow the grapes that really suit our climate.
What a great palate cleanser
Totally.
to finish.
Totally.
Mate, is there anything, I mean, there's so many other wines we could have poured today. It was impossible to pick three. The Overtelly Grenache, as I said, I just love that wine. Ironheart, the
Rue
Beauty. Anything quickly on the horizon that's exciting, anything new, any other varieties in the ground? You mentioned about some projects in 23, 24.
Yeah, we're starting with playing around with some Grenache from some other vineyards, and we figure that not everybody gets to have fun with some of our neighbours, and we're super excited about that. For us, it's just about to my mind, is wine's about lots of detail and kind of dialing in all your little 1%s and just reviewing everything we do, and we're probably our harshest critics, and just continuing to try and polish what we do already, and keep learning, keep throwing ideas. We kind of did a few little. We're always trialing something each year, and always in a little small thing. We don't ever want to change anything in any big swings, but just trying stuff out there and trying to be innovative and polish all the little detail of what we do.
Step by step, ferociously.
Correct.
Great Jeff Bezos quote.
Yeah, is it? You love the quotes.
Mate, thank you so much. We'll come down. I need to see New Cellar Door. Can't wait to come down and have a look. We'll do Salopian.
We love to host you, customers. It's we do it well, I think.
Unreal. All right, cheers, Pete. Great to catch up.
Thank
boys,
you.
mate. Thank you.
Cheers, mate.
Cheers, mate.